Well, Minority Floor Leader in the person of Congressman Bishop Benny Abante have a prayer for this meeting. Bishop Benny.
Let's have a word of prayer. You could be able to close your eyes. I'd like to read Isaiah chapter 41 and verse number 10, where it says, Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yes, I will help thee. Yes, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Dear Lord, we are in a big crisis today. And Father God, we come to you because you are our hope, you are our help. We ask that you would protect our frontliners, protect our people. We ask that you would give wisdom to our president and to us today as we discuss things for the benefit of our people. Thank you, Father God, for this opportunity. We're gathered together as your leaders of this country, dear Lord, to be able to come up with some very important packages for our people. Father God, we give this time to you now, asking for your wisdom, for your Bible, for your word says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop. I will start off with preliminary remarks until the speaker joins us. First of all, allow me to welcome all of you and thank you for your time in attending this technical working group meeting of the Defeat the COVID-19 Committee. This meeting was called by our speaker to allow us to have an initial discussion on the proposed economic stimulus response package prepared by the cluster co-chaired by Representatives Joey Salceda, Chairperson of the Committee on Ways and Means, Congresswoman Sharon Garin, Chairperson of the Committee of Economic Affairs, and our Assistant Majority Floor Leader, Stella Kimbo of Marikina. We've also invited key members of the President's economic team led by Finance Secretary Sani Dominguez to brief us on the initiatives taken by the Executive Department to ensure that our government has the wherewithals to address the myriad of problems brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. Last March 23, 2020, during the unprecedented historical session, we passed into law Republic Act number 11469, or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. Also on that day, the plenary created a Defeat COVID-19 Committee with jurisdiction over all matters directly and principally relating to the appropriate government response to the novel coronavirus pandemic and how to curb its effect on the economy and the general public, especially the labor force. One Act. Also on that day, the plenary created a Defeat COVID-19 Committee with jurisdiction over all matters directly and principally relating to the appropriate government response to the novel coronavirus pandemic and how to curb its effect on the economy and the general public, especially the labor force. 2021 Act. Also on that day, the plenary created a Defeat COVID-19 committee with jurisdiction over all matters directly and principally relating to the appropriate government response to the novel coronavirus pandemic and how to curb its effect on the economy and the general public, especially the labor force.
May I just quickly share with you a presentation. Second, we are doing this also to help in decongesting hospitals, especially in the National Capital Region, which as we speak are already experiencing some congestion, especially in hospitals in Metro Manila, specifically Quezon City and Manila. And finally, we want to develop facilities that will not only save patients, but also protect the frontliners. So we have designed these facilities in such a way that not only do they comply with the highest standards as prescribed by the World Health Organization, but also provide adequate supplies of protective equipment and gear to our frontliners. This is nothing new. This is already being done everywhere else. No, everybody is catching up, but we are lucky because right now we're trying to stay ahead of the curve and build as many as we can as fast as possible. This is an example of what they did in New York in the Javits Center. This is what they are doing right now in Central Park. Indonesia is building their own temporary hospital facilities. This is in Spain, and this was in Wuhan. This is in Wuhan, China. So our
Vince,
yes,
uh,
sir.
I think the screen is not moving. What you're showing, we're not
Ah,
seeing. We're not seeing the examples.
Baka may delay lang.
Okay.
I'll try to. Do you see it now, Deputy Speaker?
We see the frame. Ito ang ginagawa natin ngayon.
Yes. So this one, the picture from China, you see this, Deputy Speaker?
No.
Okay. So let me just maybe just do it.
Oh yeah, there. We got it.
Okay. So I'll just do it this way po para sigurado. So these are just examples of what other countries are doing, and we're not reinventing the wheel here. We are essentially doing things that other countries are doing and trying to do them a little better. So this is Javits in New York. This is Central Park. This is Indonesia. This is in Spain, and of course, Wuhan. So just for perspective po, this is what we're trying to do in NCR. We're going to be building approximately 12. The plan is to build 12 of these mega facilities throughout NCR, and also to expand this further to Region 3. I apologize, the Philippine Arena is supposed to appear there because that is the biggest center that's already under construction today. DPWH started yesterday, and we think we can have the first beds in Philippine Arena online by tomorrow or Thursday. And also we are building facilities in Clark to serve Central Luzon and maybe even serve up to Northern Luzon. The first 4 facilities are already complete. These are the Ninoy Aquino Stadium in the Rizal Memorial Complex, as well as the Rizal Stadium. Combined bed capacity in Rizal Memorial will be roughly 220 beds. And these are the facilities that are already there, now completed in about 5 days. These are pictures of the hospital beds in the cubicles. PICC, these are pictures of actual booths already there. In fact, just today, the team from China, the experts and the doctors from China visited the PICC today, gave their inputs, but were also expressed they were very impressed with how the facilities were built and how the designs were done and how they were completed in less than a week. Just to explain po a little bit, you'll probably notice some differences in color, and the very pastel and very vibrant colors that were used. This is actually by design. Our architect Dan Lichauco, who is the architect of UPPGH, Medical City, and Asian Hospital, designed it in such a way that the colors are vibrant to make the stay of our patients more lively and more joyful despite their circumstances. But they are also color coded so that the nurses in, say, a purple station know that they are taking care of the patients in the purple area. And the nurses in the blue nurses station take care of the areas in the blue cubicles. So this is to provide an easier way for our frontliners to take care of our patients. The World Trade Center is also completed already, very similar to the Javits Center in New York. This is the biggest we have so far. It's 502 beds in World Trade Center. And both PICC and World Trade will be ready for operations by our AFP and PNP Medical Corps within the next 2 days, by Thursday. Ninoy Aquino is already operational. And as of today, there are already 21 patients from the city of Manila already in Ninoy Aquino. The other facilities include the Quezon Institute, the Philippine Sports Arena, which already started construction yesterday, Duty Free Philippines in Parañaque, the Philinvest tent in Alabang to service the South, Muntinlupa, and Las Piñas and Parañaque. This has already started as well, and this will be completed in the next few days. Amoranto Stadium in Quezon City, Quezon Memorial Circle, which will be a major tent facility, which will be similar to Central Park in New York. The strategic location of this is very important because it is right in the middle of the network of hospitals in Quezon City. Veterans Medical Center Complex will also be, we will also be adding capacity via several outdoor tents. And of course, the mega quarantine facility in Philippine Arena, which began construction yesterday. The Clark Convention Center with 200 beds is already operational. This is a dry run conducted by our healthcare professionals in Clark. And they will already start accepting patients from Pampanga and Tarlac in the next few days. These are samples of the cubicles in the convention center. Of course, the Athletes Village has already been housing our repatriates. There have already been 3 batches totaling more than 1,000 of our repatriate seafarers beginning early February, mid-February, up until 2 weeks ago. Now they will be used by persons under investigation from Tarlac and Pampanga initially. This is 525 rooms. The 2 government buildings have been retrofitted into a COVID-positive, mild and asymptomatic care facility, and it's already completed. It has about 1,000 beds. And this is a typical floor area that has already been completed and will be ready to accept patients in the next few days. Also from Pampanga and Tarlac, but can also service other provinces in Central Luzon as the case arises. These are just examples of those facilities. Now, it's important also to know that our patients will be cared for very well in these facilities. 24/7 care by our doctors and nurses will be provided. This is a combination of those from the LGUs, the provinces, as well as from the AFP and the PNP. The food will be provided for by the national government and the various GOCCs like DCD and Clark. We will be providing very generous meals to the patients and the staff. They're all air conditioned, but with the adequate ventilation and positive and negative pressure required to ensure the protection not only of the patients but also equally important of the protection of the frontliners. And courtesy of PLDT, Smart, and Globe, there will be free Wi-Fi in all the quarantine facilities. You will notice every cubicle has a electric plug so that our kababayans can plug their phones, their devices, so that they can enjoy the free Wi-Fi for them. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank also, and it's important for our members of Congress and our committee members to know that this could not have been done without the assistance of the private sector. A lot of private sector companies have stepped up to the plate and contributed enormously to this endeavor. The Razon Group spent for the facilities in Rizal Memorial. EEI and Vista Land spent with the Department of Public Works and Highways the facilities in PICC. Ayala Land, Makati Development Corporation, AC Energy, they spent for World Trade Center together with the ICCP. Philinvest spent for the Philinvest tent. Investment Capital Corporation of the Philippines, the group of Chairman Gili Luchanco, provided for the assistance in World Trade Center Manila. The Lina Group of Companies. Meralco provided free electricity for all quarantine sites. PLDT Smart, as mentioned earlier. Globe as well for Wi-Fi. And numerous others, Mr. Chairman, including DMCI, Concepcion Industries, and other companies. With that, Mr. Chairman, that ends my very brief presentation on the quarantine facilities as
Thank you.
part of the overall strategy of the National Task Force against COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Secretary President Vince Dizon of the flagship projects and PCDA for a very, very comprehensive and a very, very reassuring presentation on the readiness of the government in conjunction and in collaboration with the private sector to meet the needs of our kababayans who will be afflicted and needing hospital facilities. At this juncture, I'd like to recognize and acknowledge the presence of our Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano. Speaker, you have the floor.
Magandang hapon. Thank you to our Chairman, Majority Leader. Thank you, Secretary Vince Dizon, Presidential Advisor on flagship programs. And I think Secretary Sani Dominguez of the DOF will be joining us in a few minutes. Pasensya na po kayo sa committee members and sa mga kababayan natin. I had a long Zoom teleconference with the cabinet members and they've been assuring us 24/7 talaga ang kayod to provide for everyone's need, but to keep everyone healthy. You know? So just as a way of intro to what we're doing today, you know, let me tell you a short story. There was these two church groups building a church. Yung isa very prayerful, so half of their workforce nasa covered court, nagpre-pray araw-araw. The second one, they weren't prayerful. They didn't really have much of in faith. They just liked the religious side of it. So they were building the church. Hindi natapos, naubos yung pera, hindi maganda design and everything. So when they got together, what did they realize? Yung pong nasa Bible na faith without action is dead. So on one side, may faith yung isang church because they were praying, they were preaching. Ang problema, they weren't working. They weren't building the church. So sinabi sa kanila ng mga nagbi-build, kung tinulungan nyo lang kami, natapos to. On the other hand, the other side, the other church, they weren't preaching, they weren't sharing, they weren't asking for donations, they weren't praying together. So people didn't understand kung ano yung purpose nung paggagawa ng church, hindi rin natapos. So, ito pong nangyayari sa atin sa COVID-19 is ginigiba ng COVID-19 everything we built. The economy, we call it social distancing, but in reality, yung social cohesiveness natin nawawala. Dati nang toxic yung ibang parts ng SOCMED, but lalo po ngayon, it should be an instrument to connect, to help each other, di ba? So let me just put into context our technical working group today and also on Thursday and then hopefully Monday or Tuesday, then the hearings to come. This is our attempt of Congress to put action to our faith and to partner with the executive to come up with 4 areas, no? Sa health, sa peace and order, sa social amelioration o sa kalinga sa ating mga kababayan na kailangan talaga ng tulong, at yung economic stimulus that will hit the middle class and the business group. So thank you, Chairman, for this opportunity. We will be listening. And a special thanks po kay Chairman Joey Salceda, kay Congresswoman Stella Kimbo, and kay Chairman ng Economic Affairs na si Congresswoman Sharon Garin. But also special thanks to our friends in the Cabinet, Secretary Dominguez. Thank you to GSIS, SSS, and to the BCDA President. No? So I hope this will be helpful and later on siguro will address the media. Thank you, Chairman. God bless. And let's, I don't know if Sexani is already on.
Radyo, nakamute po.
Speaker, Chairman, if we may, we will proceed while the secretaries of cabinet are not yet available with the presentations of our co-chairs. And if we may, we will start off with Congresswoman Sharon Garin. And we would also, at this juncture, Speaker, that you know that the media now has joined us, and they are now witnessing, and they will be listening to presentations. And after all the presentations of our resource persons and our co-chairs, the various committees, we shall open up for some questions and answers as moderated by our Secretary. So Congresswoman Sharon Garin is an accountant and a lawyer by profession, who likewise was conferred a master's degree in business administration by the ESADE in Barcelona, Spain. She was a former deputy speaker of the House of Representatives and is currently the chairperson of the Committee of Economic Affairs. She is the chairman emeritus of the party list coalition representing the Ambis OA party list group. Representative Garin will give an overview on the importance of formulating and implementing a sound economic stimulus program to ensure that the country is able to get back on its feet as soon as possible. Chair Sharon Garin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Good afternoon, Speaker. Good afternoon, Minority Leader. My fellow representatives and guests and the media, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ako po ay taga Iloilo po. I was born and raised in Iloilo. In fact, I have a small restaurant business in SM Iloilo City. When ECQ was about to be declared, I told my employees, umuwi kayo, stay at home, follow the quarantine, and I will pay. I promise I will pay the next 15 days kahit hindi kayo magtrabaho. Iloilo is now on its almost 30 days in ECQ. We continue to pay, but I continue to pay the salaries of the 25 employees despite having no sales at all. Negative po kami ngayon. The ECQ has been extended for another 15 days. And this is a dilemma because as a small business owner, I'm wondering, I now have to start paying my employees from my personal savings. I am not sure when the ECQ will end. I am not sure if our customers will come back to eat at our restaurant after ECQ. So I was thinking maybe I just have to close out the business and cut my losses early. But I still wonder, Mr. Speaker, what will happen? Ang mangyayari po sa mga empleyado ko if we close the business for good? Will our employees find jobs? Makakahanap kaya sila ng trabaho? Ang isang empleyado ko si Mark, anak ng katulong namin. Yung dalawang empleyado ko, maliliit pa yung anak. Yung isa, kakapanganak lang last week. Many of them are breadwinners, or they are paying for the siblings' education. And what will happen to my suppliers? Sinong bibili ng itlog sa farm doon sa San Joaquin, Iloilo? Will the farmers in Leon, Iloilo have new buyers for their vegetables? Mr. Speaker, every employee has a story, and every supplier has a story, and every business has the same dilemma. Hindi po ako nag-iisa. Every time a business closes, 25 people will not have income. So 25 families will not have meals 3 times a day. Suppliers won't be able to sell their goods, and another 25 people won't have income. So another 25 families won't have enough food on their tables. Mr. Speaker, this is why we need an economic stimulus for the effects of COVID-19 after ECQ. Over 1 million businesses need government help so they can help 30 million families. Business owners, waiters, managers, janitors, drivers, accountants, lawyers, and all Filipino employees, whether white or blue collar, Metro Manila or in the province, salaried or daily wage earners need government intervention in order to help them out in this predicament. During ECQ, we need to safeguard Filipino lives. But after ECQ, we need to safeguard their livelihood. Mr. Speaker, the lifeblood of the economy is employment. Without jobs, Filipinos will not have income. won't have food on their tables, and won't be healthy members of our society. Around 40 million Filipinos have jobs in the country. The economic downturn post-ECQ will affect the security of most of our labor force. Why? Number one, daily wage and informal workers. There are 30 million daily wage and informal workers. They are the most vulnerable should there be economic slowdown on post-ECQ. Number two, MSMEs. There are almost 1 million micro, small, and medium enterprises, accounting for 99% of the total number of establishments. Due to the pay wages, no sales mode, tulad ng ginagawa ko ngayon sa negosyo ko, during the ECQ, the hardest hit establishments are the MSMEs. Dahil kulang yung liquidity nila, they have to likely dip into their paid up capital or their own pockets in order to pay the wages during ECQ. Number three, non-essential services. Only businesses and essential services are allowed to operate during ECQ, like hospitals, pharmacies, food, banks, utilities, telecommunications, and media. Non-essential businesses have to stop operations and go to, like what I do, pay wages kahit wala kang benta. These businesses employ about a total of 70 million Filipinos. For every ECQ month, they will spend around 60 billion pesos in wages. Although the situation is more dire with MSMEs, less liquidity for larger companies may also result to retrenchment as a result of any future change in business post-COVID-19. Number four, OFWs. DOLE estimates around 200,000 OFWs will be repatriated due to COVID-19. Number five, critical industries. The following diagrams will demonstrate which industries are highly affected by COVID-19. Can we go to the next slide, please? Like in this diagram, you can see that it is tourism, airlines, and retail, non-food retail are affected. Also, the rest are for trading industry because of the slowdown of trade in the whole world. The next slide, please. Again, it's tourism, aviation, and many manufacturing. Those are the biggest losers or biggest high impact because of COVID-19. Although DTI, NEDA, and DOF are better equipped to later determine what are critical industries, the diagrams merely demonstrate the effect of COVID-19 on many businesses. It is expected that high exposure or potential loser industries will retract business after COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, after ECQ, nobody should lose their jobs or business because of COVID-19. After we save the lives of Filipinos, we must save our economy from recession. We are on ECQ because we want to flatten the curve. People are staying home, employees are not working, businesses that are not open so that there are less infections and we have less deaths. We are in ECQ. When we are in ECQ, we save lives, but our livelihood or paychecks are put on hold. On the other hand, without ECQ, we save lives, we save less lives, there will be more deaths, but we continue our livelihood. The Filipinos, as a God-fearing society, we choose to save lives. Lives first, livelihood later. That is also the choice of all the 30 million workers and 1 million business establishments. So how do we save livelihood later? In this diagram, we can see the flip side of medical intervention to economic intervention. Flattening the medical curve deepens the recession curve. The longer the ECQ, the longer and deeper we go on economic recession. The question is, what does the government do after ECQ to flatten the economic recession curve? The Economic Stimulus Subcommittee is honored to present, Mr. Speaker, our proposal to the House leadership today. This committee has painstakingly evaluated measures so that after we flatten the curve of COVID-19 infections, we are armed with the right tools to flatten the curve of economic recession. For this, 3 online meetings were simultaneously and lengthily conducted with the following groups: Subcommittee on Economic Stimulus Package with 10 members, Committee on Economic Affairs with 34 members, and business organizations and stakeholders with 30 participants. We have at least 35 position papers from government agencies, House members, and stakeholders. In this light, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to the dynamic exchange of ideas with the members, the participants, with discussions running until midnight for the last 7 days or so. We are indeed fortunate, Mr. Speaker, to have the best economists in the country as co-chairman of this committee, namely Congressman Joey Salceda and Congresswoman Stella Kimbo. Because of Joey and Stella, the members now have a better understanding of the issues and can make better economic decisions for our country. The subcommittee is currently deliberating on 2 economic stimulus package bills, namely the National Stimulus Strategy authored by Representative Joey Salceda, Economy Moving Forward as one act offered by Representative Stella Luz Kimbo. For the 30 million working Filipinos and 1 million business establishments affected by COVID-19, these 2 proposals are the light at the end of the pandemic tunnel. Both are geared towards protection of jobs and augmentation of business liquidity. These 2 bills that will be consolidated by the committee will later be further elaborated by themselves, Joey and Stella, in this hearing. In sum, Mr. Speaker, the mandate of the Bayanihan Act is only 3 months. We need an economic stimulus package to ensure that Filipinos are secure in their livelihood after ECQ. We need to help businesses, whether micro, small, medium, or large enterprises, in order to help Filipinos secure their sources of income and be able to feed their families. The threats that the businesses and our economy will face post-ECQ is softened by the achievements of this Congress, this 18th Congress before ECQ, during which we have enacted measures that are now the drivers and the fundamentals of our robust economic growth. It is again time for us to pass economic measure, probably the most significant and important of all, in order to keep our economy afloat and keep our fellow Filipinos productive and healthy. In fact, I do believe that with the right interventions and budget, we can bring our economic growth back almost to the same level as before COVID-19 happened. But Mr. Speaker, my fellow representatives, I humbly urge that we act the soonest on this measure in order to boost business confidence and maintain stability for our labor force. Businesses have to be assured and our countrymen have to have hope. Both have to trust that help is coming from the government post or after ECQ. Mr. Speaker, let's save livelihood. Let's save jobs. Let's save the economy. Let's flatten the recession curve. Thank you, and God bless our country.
Thank you so much, Chair Sharon Garin, for your presentation. Mr. Speaker, Chairman, and the rest of the committee members and those listening, we shall now be having the next presentation to be given by Congresswoman Stella Kimbo, who is an economist with an extensive research portfolio covering health economics, competition law and economics, and public policy, among others. She's a former member or a member of the faculty of the UP School of Economics and a former commissioner of the Philippine Competition Commission. Siya din po ay naging isang sapatera sa kanyang distrito sa Marikina. Kasabayan ko si Stella sa UP, siya ay graduate na summa cum laude at naging University valedictorian noong 1991. Congressman Kimbo's presentation will cover how government can help support workers and retain jobs amidst the COVID-19 by ensuring business continuity, especially among MSSMEs. Using data, she will discuss which workers and businesses are most affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. She will then take us through the highlights of her proposed fiscal stimulus package, which includes compensation for business losses and payroll costs incurred during the crisis, boost liquidity through the interest-free loans facilitate capacity building so businesses, especially MSMEs, can cope with the new normal post-COVID. With these proposed measures, the whole government, businesses, and workers can move forward post-COVID as one. Co-Chair Stella, you have the floor.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Pagbati kina Speaker Alan, Majority Leader Martin, Minority Leader Benny, DSL Ray, Chairman Eric, sa aking mga co-chairs, Chairs Sharon, Joey, Kong Sarki, kumusta din? Sec Vince, Exani, magandang hapon po. Pati sa mga kasama natin sa media. At Mr. Speaker, nabanggit na po kanina ni Chairman Sharon ang key provisions ng aking panukalang batas. Hayaan niyo naman po na may paliwanag ko ang layunin ng House Bill na to. At ako po ay isang ekonomista, kaya gusto ko sanang maipaliwanag kung paano ko po nakuha ang kabuuang halaga na 370 billion pesos para po sa fiscal stimulus. Ang layunin ng House Bill na ito ay palakasin ang ekonomiya. Siguraduhin na walang magsara na negosyo, lalo na ang mga maliliit. At ang pinakamahalagang layunin ay parang masiguradong wala pong mawawalan ng trabaho o mababawasan ng kita. The short title of the bill is Economy Moving Forward as One. Totoo po, mabigat ang naging epekto ng COVID sa atin lahat. Kailangan natin pagtulungan para masiguradong protektado ang mga empleyado. Kailangan magtulungan ang Kongreso at Executive sa pagpasa ng isang batas. Kailangan na magtulungan ang iba't ibang government agencies. Kailangan din ang tulong ng private sector. At dahil malaki po ang kailangan na pera para sa fiscal stimulus, mahalaga na base sa datos ang mga panukala. Mahalaga din na alam ng ating mga resource persons ang datos na ginamit ko para pwede natin lalong pagandahin ang ating mga panukalang batas. Ang data sources ko po para sa presentation na to ay ang Labor Force Survey o yung LFS, ang Annual Survey of Philippine Business and Industry o yung ASPBI, at ang Family Income and Expenditure Survey or yung FICE. Ito po ay nationally conducted surveys ng Philippine Statistical Authority. Next slide, please. So muli po, ang layunin ay masigurado na mapanatili ang mga empleyado, manatili ang mga negosyo, manatili ang sahod. Currently, we have 41 million workers in the entire economy, and there are 3 groups that will be unaffected by COVID. So nandiyan na po ang government workers, sila po ay 3.7 million. Nandiyan din po ang employees in ECQ essential businesses. Sila po ay 3.4 million individuals. Sila po yung pinayagan magtuloy-tuloy ang negosyo kahit na may lockdown. Kasama dyan ang mga grocery stores, ang drugstores, restaurants, media, ang bangko, mga utilities. At syempre sigurado din ang ating mga kasambahay na may trabaho sila pagkatapos ng COVID. At 1.9 million ang bilang nila. Pero merong 29 million workers, small business owners at employers na naging kasapi ng tinatawag na non-essential businesses noong ECQ. Ito naman po ang mga negosyong hindi nakapag-operate noong ECQ. Kasama dito ang mga maliliit na gawaan ng sapatos sa Marikina. Walang benta pero patuloy ang bayad sa sweldo ng empleyado, patuloy ang bayad sa utang. These 29 million workers can be affected by COVID in varying degrees. If the effect on a business is severe, layoffs can happen. If the effect on a business is moderate, no layoffs will happen, but compensation might be reduced, meaning wala pong bonus, sorry na lang, o di kaya reduced work hours. Kung nagkataon na ang gawaan ng sapatos ay may magandang lifeline at pwedeng punuan ng may-ari ang sweldo at utang mula sa ipon, walang magiging problema sa empleyado. Pero kung walang lifeline, baka doon magka-problema. At yan ang dahilan kung bakit nandito tayo ngayon. The Congress of the People is finding ways to help the Filipino workers keep their jobs. Yan po ang dahilan kung bakit binuo po ni Speaker Alan ang subcommittee na to on economic stimulus. At kami po ay work at home po ngayon. Tuloy-tuloy po, halos hanggat hating gabi na nga po. Next slide, please. So, which sectors will be affected by COVID? Siyempre, una sa lahat po ay ang tourism at trade. These are sectors that rely on the movement of people and goods across borders. At naging unang epekto ng COVID ay tumigil ang pagbiyahe ng tao dahil sa country lockdowns, dahil na rin sa pag-iingat ng biyahero. Tumigil din eventually ang mga flights at humina ang pagdaong ng mga barko, kaya natigil din ang imports at exports. Ang total workers sa tourism ay 6.5 million. At sa manufacturing firms naman na exporters o di kaya importers, meron dyan 500,000 workers. Next, please. Bukod sa tourism at trade, ang mga ECQ, non-essential businesses, na pinaka-maapektuhan ay pwedeng base sa laki ng payroll nila noong ECQ at pati na rin sa laki ng utang nila. At pag ipagsama natin ang dalawang ito, pwede po tayo makapag-identify kung sino po ang pinaka-apektado ng ECQ. So kasama po dito ang retail trade, ang land transport, construction, crop and animal production, wholesale trade, repair of motor vehicles, manufacture of computer and electronic products, education, accommodation services, at office administrative services. Kaya kung makikita po natin dito, ito pong tourism at trade ay matatamaan ulit. Parang pong na-double whammy sila. Kasi po ang accommodation service po, this includes hotels. Ang manufacture of computer products and electronics, kasama po ito ang semiconductors, which is our top export. And altogether, these 10 sectors na nakita po natin dito sa ating slide covers 22 million workers, small businesses, pati na rin po ang mga employers. Next slide, please. Ang MSMEs ay masasabing apektado din ng COVID dahil hindi naman sila liquid at hirap sila umutang, hirap din sila rumisponde sa COVID. Yun na lang pong requirement na magsuot ng mask ang bawat empleyado. Dagdag gastos na yun. 40 pesos po ang bawat isa niyan at least once a day ka magpapalit. Maraming magbabago sa pamamaraan ng negosyo, lalong-lalo na po sa services sector. Yung may-ari ng beauty parlor na maliit o maliit na spa na may mga masahista, kailangan nilang pag-isipan, paano kaya gagawin ang social distancing? Paano kung hingan sila ng customers na mga health clearance? Yung pinakamurang test na galing sa UP-NIH ay 1,000 pesos kada isa. So tunay na mahihirapan po ang mga maliliit na negosyo dito sa tinatawag na new normal pagkatapos ng ECQ. Ang bilang ng MSMEs sa most affected sectors ay halos 750,000. Ito po ay 75% ng 1 million registered MSMEs o ito po yung mga formal establishments. Ito pong 4.5 million naman na nakikita niyong bilang sa third column. Ito pa ay bilang ng mga maliliit na negosyo, pero sila naman po ay nasa informal sector. Ito po ang mga maliliit na negosyo na talagang kailangan ng tulong. Kasama dito ang mga pwesto sa tiangge, gawaan ng sapatos sa bahay, maliliit na parlor, mga barbero. Ang pinaka-affected po na MSMEs ay yung nasa NCR, pati na rin po sa regions 3A, 3 at 4A. Next, please. Mabigat po ang hinaharap natin na problema. Muli, pagtulungan natin lahat ito. Ito po ang nakikita kong papel ng pamahalaan. Many sectors are affected by COVID. It affects all sizes of firms, micro, small, medium, and large, but especially the smaller ones. Each firm has a very specific situation or context. So it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for government to provide a tailor-fitted solution for each one. So my proposal is for government to help businesses help themselves. So kung merong maliit na tindahan at napansin nito na takot nang pumunta sa tindahan ng mga tao, kaya sa halip, baka mas maganda na magbenta online. Siyempre, kailangan dyan ng website, kailangan ng payment system, kailangan din siyempre ng logistics. Tutulong dyan ang gobyerno. Kung meron din maliit na school at gusto nilang magkaroon ng online courses, tutulong dyan ang gobyerno. Kaya ito po ang general na klase ng pagtulong na pwedeng ibigay ng gobyerno. So una sa lahat, ang compensation po para sa pasweldo po ng mga ECQ non-essential businesses during the lockdown po. Pangalawa, nandyan po ang capacity building to help businesses cope with the new normal. So alam natin na talagang tiyak na mag-iiba ang uri ng pagnenegosyo pagkatapos ng ECQ. Kaya kailangan tulungan ng gobyerno ang mga negosyo. Pangatlo, zero interest loans to boost liquidity. At pang-apat, tinatawag natin na proportional assistance. Ibig sabihin, dapat tama lang ang laki ng ayuda. Hindi masyadong maliit, hindi masyadong malaki. Tamang-tama lang po. Kaya po, overall, magkano ba ang kailangan ng gobyerno? So next slide, please. So how much do we need? This depends on the effect of COVID on GDP growth. If we go from a 6% growth to close to zero growth, we will lose about 1.1 trillion pesos. So kung mawawalan po tayo ng 1.1 trillion pesos, ang ibig sabihin ba nito ay gagastos din ng gobyerno ng ganyan kalaki? Ay hindi naman po. Dahil meron po tayong tinatawag na multiplier effects. Na ang ibig sabihin, if government spends 1 peso, halimbawa na lang po sa infrastructure, this 1 peso will spur activity in related sectors like construction materials and trucking. So in the end, the 1 peso spending of government will result in a 1.53 peso increase in GDP. And so with a multiplier of 1.53, then dividing 1.1 trillion pesos na siyang kailangan po natin habulin, i-divide po natin yan by 1.53, ang makukuha po natin ay isang required spending ng mga 700 billion pesos. At dahil sa ngayon po, gagastos na po ang gobyerno ng tila 330 billion pesos para sa Bayanihan Act. Ang balanse po na 370 billion, yan po ay para sa fiscal stimulus, yung pagsisiguro po na walang mawawalan ng trabaho. Next, please. At ito naman po ang aking panukalang breakdown ng 370 billion pesos. So meron po dyan 110 billion pesos para sa wage subsidies, para sa mga kumpanya na nagpapasweldo sa empleyado, bagamat nagsara ng ECQ. Ito ay para sa lahat ng apektadong non-essential businesses regardless of size. Meron din pong kabuuan na 140 billion pesos para sa interest-free loans at expanded loan guarantees. Iba-ibang ahensya ang pwedeng mag-implement nito tulad ng Small Business Corporation, Agricultural Credit Policy Council, Land Bank of the Philippines, at Development Bank of the Philippines. Meron ding 119 billion pesos para po sa open grants na targeted, lalong-lalo na po sa ating MSMEs. Targeted din po sa mga sakop ng tourism industry at pati na rin ang mga exporters at importers. Again, the purpose of these grants is to help business cope with the new normal after COVID. Kasama dito ang capacity building activities tulad ng education, training, at advising. Yung nabanggit ko po kanina na website development na kinailangan po ng isang tindahan para magkaroon po ng online sales, kasama din po dito sa grant window na ito. Next, please. So, panghuli na lang po, we also need to plan for our future. The next time that another COVID strikes us, we should be better prepared. At ito po yung tinatawag na economic resilience, the ability of the economy to withstand and recover from shocks. Under my bill, the NEDA shall prepare a long-term plan for economic resilience. Kasama dito ang building the capacity of the health sector, improvements on the database of the government so it can effectively provide social amelioration. Kasama din po dito yung enhanced build. With more and better infrastructure, our economy will certainly be more resilient. Next, please. So simple lang po, ang COVID ay parang bagyo sa isang mangingisda. Nasira ang bangka at lambat. So temporarily, government had to break its cardinal rule of not giving fish to the fishermen. Government is now providing social amelioration through the Bayanihan Act. But government cannot do this for a long time. Kailangan tulungan ng gobyerno ayusin ang bangka at lambat. Yan ang aking panukalang batas. Government fixes the boat, fixes the wheels of the economy. We ensure business continuity. This way, we protect the Filipino worker. Let's flatten the curve, not the economy. Magandang hapon po.
Maraming salamat, Co-Chair Stella, sa napakagandang presentation. At this juncture, we would like to welcome and acknowledge the arrival and the presence of our key economic manager in the person of our Department of Finance Secretary, Carlos Sani Dominguez of the Department of Finance. Joey, can we have our Secretary of Finance make his presentation first, and that you will just synthesize all your inputs and insights after having heard all our guests as well and our guest speakers. So we will ask our kind and very, very hardworking, good Secretary, Secretary Carlos G. Dominguez, better known as Secretary Sani Dominguez to most of us in Congress, to share with us his presentation. Secretary?
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for the invitation. What we have here is a short presentation on the situation of the Philippines vis-a-vis the COVID. By the way, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Can you see the presentation I have in front of you?
Yes, we have the initial slide, Mr. Secretary.
Okay, thank you. So this is a report on the COVID-19 socioeconomic response. At the first sign of community transmission of COVID-19 in the Philippines, President Duterte took decisive action to slow the outbreak. He placed the entire island of Luzon on enhanced community quarantine beginning March 17. This was initially to last until April 12, but has since been extended to the end of April upon the recommendation of the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases. The decision has likely saved thousands of infections from infection and death. Nonetheless, we know that the economic losses from the pandemic will be tremendous. Our effort to protect our countrymen and to provide for their needs will come at a heavy price. Our priorities are clear. We must save lives and protect our communities. At the same time, we must provide financial support to millions of the most vulnerable families as well as employees of small businesses. We have to keep mobilizing resources to support our frontline health workers, and we have to provide liquidity and support to the economy. The outline of our presentation is, number one, to give an overview of the Philippine economy. Number two, to the economic impact of COVID-19. Number three, our four-pillar socioeconomic strategy against COVID-19, namely emergency support for vulnerable groups, marshaling resources to fight COVID-19, fiscal and monetary actions to finance emergency initiatives and to keep the economy afloat, and the economic recovery plan to create jobs and sustain growth. And number four, to support for small businesses. For the past 3 years, we have managed the economy very prudently. The macroeconomic fundamentals of the Philippines are strong. Our growth last year was 5.9%, slightly below the 6.4% average from 2016 to 2019. But we know where that problem came from. The revenue effort is at 16.9% in 2019, is the highest rate in 22 years. We maintained a manageable debt to GDP ratio of 41.5% in 2019. This is a vast improvement from the 74.5% in 2004 and 55% in 2010. The inflation rate has remained low at 2.5% in March this year, which is within the target range of 2 to 4%. The President's fiscal policy vastly improving our revenue flows, being very judicious with expenditures and investments, and maintaining a well-balanced debt management strategy have placed us in a good position to meet the initial set of financial challenges posed by COVID-19. Judicious fiscal stewardship has prepared us to finance the first tranche of the priority responses against the pandemic. However, our containment efforts will take their toll on the economy, and we must be prudent in our spending. We have to realize that our funds are not endless, so we will need to spend it correctly and not on wasteful activities. We need to also keep in mind that we will need to finance the bounce back plan for the economy. If the pandemic lasts until the middle of this year, we estimate that our full year GDP growth could dive to zero or move into negative territory at probably minus 0.8%. Some 1.2 million workers will be temporarily unemployed. Before the crisis, our unemployment rate was at its lowest level in decades. The budget deficit could also widen to 5.3%, meaning we will be spending more than we will be collecting in revenues. Though we have to keep in mind that we are spending more in order to save our people and to make sure that they have food on the table during this very difficult period. Meanwhile, our debt to GDP ratio could increase to 46.7%. This is still low compared to our historical performance and that of our neighbors. Our prudent debt management strategy is what is allowed and will continue to enable us to borrow from multinational institutions at concessional rates to support the economy and fight COVID-19. The expanded budgetary powers granted to the President under the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, which was passed by Congress 1 week after the imposition of the enhanced community quarantine, have enabled the government to pursue a 4-pillar strategy to shelter the Filipino people from the adverse impact of the pandemic. The strategy now has a combined value of 1.45 trillion or 7.8% of GDP. The Duterte administration's 4-pillar strategy is as follows. 1, emergency support for the vulnerable groups. 2, marshalling resources to fight the COVID-19. 3, the fiscal and monetary actions to finance emergency initiatives and to keep the economy afloat. And 4, an economic recovery plan to create jobs and sustain growth. First, we will provide emergency support or lifeline assistance to vulnerable groups of our populations and industries with a total of around 583 billion pesos. This includes an emergency cash subsidy program, the largest social protection program in the history of the Philippines, which will cost us 205 billion pesos to be distributed to 18 million low-income families in a span of 2 months. As of today, more than 3.7 million family beneficiaries have received the cash subsidy. This will be followed by wage subsidies worth 51 billion pesos to incentivize retention of workers of small businesses, a 120 billion peso credit guarantee program so that the small business owners can borrow financing from banks even during a crisis, and an enhanced net operating loss carryover for 5 years, which will cost us around 140 billion pesos. We will expound on this at the last part of our presentation. The details of the 583 million are on your screen at the moment. Second, we have marshaled and will continue to marshal resources to fight COVID-19 to support our frontline healthcare workers. At this point, we have put in place around 36 billion pesos for health expenditures to combat the pandemic. The Bureau of Customs has also fast-tracked the release of more than 6,600 shipments of personal protective equipment and medical supplies as of the 12th of April. Third, we took bold fiscal and monetary actions to support the economy. We are putting in place around 830 billion pesos to finance emergency initiatives and to keep the economy liquid and afloat. This includes 610 billion pesos in additional concessional financing from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and multinational bilateral lenders. The Monetary Board has lowered interest rates and provided liquidity for the economy by an estimated 220 billion pesos by reducing the reserve requirement for banks by 200 basis points. This is only the first tranche. The BSP also provided regulatory relief measures for banks and financial institutions. Both the Department of Finance and the BSP are in sync, ensuring that fiscal and monetary tools in our arsenal are kept sharp and ready to be used when needed. We have also immediately provided an extension of tax compliance deadlines, followed shortly by a grace period for all loan repayments and credit card amortizations with no compounded interest and no fees or penalties for as long as the lockdown is in effect. These measures primarily will help the middle class. The total indicative financing from the ADB and World Bank can be mobilized by the Philippine government to respond to the socio-economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic amounts to $5.7 billion inclusive of a new proposed assistance for the COVID-19 response facilities, as well as additional programs and loans, and target accelerated distributions of ongoing programs with both banks. Of these, the DOF has recently signed a total of $503 million worth of official development assistance from the World Bank and ADB to address COVID-19. The remaining $200 million from the previously signed loan agreement for the Social Welfare Development and Reform Project, additional financing from the World Bank may be accelerated for disbursement during this month to be used as budgetary support for our COVID-19 response. The ADB also provided an emergency grant of $5 million for the Philippines through a public philanthropic partnership for food distribution program to benefit NCR's poorest households. This was implemented last week. The fourth pillar, we will work on an economic recovery plan that is responsive to the needs of consumers, micro, small, and medium enterprises to create jobs and sustain growth. A nationwide survey was conducted to assess the damage to industries. The survey generated around 44,000 responses. The survey findings plus the results of additional consultations will determine differentiated and targeted interventions that the government will put in place for the vulnerable segments of the MSMEs. The enhanced community quarantine is necessary to slow the spread of the COVID-19, but has also led to significant hardship among households and businesses. The government is responding in a properly sequenced manner. First, with the 200 billion emergency subsidy program, the government is helping some 18 million informal economy families that are under the No Work, No Pay scheme. Second, to the Small Business Relief Program, the government will, in various ways, help 1.5 million small businesses in the formal sector that are affected by the community quarantine and their 3.4 million affected workers. The government has been helping small businesses cope with the crisis. Some of the measures include extension of various documents filing and tax filing and payment deadlines by at least 30 days, implementation of a minimum 30-day grace period for full payment of all loans without incurring interest on interest, penalties or other charges, implementation of a minimum 30-day grace period on rental payments. The government will roll out a small business wage subsidy program, and it aims to provide a wage subsidy to up to 3.4 million employees of small businesses affected by the enhanced community quarantine. This will complement the social amelioration program in the Bayanihan law by providing support to the formal sector employees who comprise the middle class. The program seeks to improve the infrastructure of providing salary subsidies by creating an efficient and effective mechanism to deliver salary subsidies not only for the current but also for the future crises. These efforts will be complemented by other relief programs for small businesses such as credit guarantee on small business loans and an enhanced net operating loss carry over for 5 years. We are committed to continue investments in our social and infrastructure programs to help revive and sustain the economic growth. This will benefit all players and provide a stronger workforce and improve logistics and connectivity for businesses. This will help our economy recover quickly upon the defeat of the virus. In the face of this challenge, we do not intend to succumb. We fully intend to heal as one nation and prevail over the crisis. We want to thank the Congress for this hearing and for presenting the various proposed measures that we believe will be very helpful to our efforts to finance the bounce back of our economy upon the defeat of this COVID virus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for your very clear, comprehensive presentation. We would like to congratulate you and the economic managers for all that you have done in being the great stewards that have allowed us to move forward. We would like now to call upon the good Secretary Vince Dizon to continue on his second presentation that will complement the Build initiative of the executive. Secretary Vince Dizon, are you ready?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This will be very brief, Mr. Chairman. This presentation just complements the bigger picture presentation of the Secretary of Finance, but delving more in the public infrastructure program that, as Secretary Dominguez has repeatedly said, will be one of the cornerstones of our way forward out of this crisis. Let me start by just quoting a a very famous economist, no? John Maynard Keynes in the 1930s, in response to the Great Depression, made this very famous quote. And he said, "The long run is a misleading guide to current affairs. In the long run, we are all dead." Essentially, what he meant here was government action in response to a crisis. In his case, during that time, was the Great Depression, must be swift, must be decisive, and must really be the prime mover of the economy moving forward out of something that we are currently experiencing now. And I think the presentations of Congresswoman Garin, Congresswoman Kimbo, and of course, Secretary Dominguez are all leading in this direction. If we look at GDP growth and the projections post while we are going through this COVID-19 problem throughout the world, the Philippines is actually in a not so bad place, no, just a little below China at 2% adjusted GDP forecast, but above our other ASEAN neighbors such as Thailand, and even above the more developed countries in Asia and in the Northern Hemisphere. As Secretary Dominguez correctly pointed out, our debt to GDP, because of the prudent economic policies, is in a very good place. No, we have room, we have wiggle room to borrow, but of course, whatever borrowing we do must be very prudently spent. More than that, we are in a very good interest rate regime, as Secretary Dominguez has continuously pointed out. All the benchmark lending rates throughout the world are at one of their lowest points in history. No, and I think this bodes well to whatever stimulus package that the national government will decide on. And as Secretary Dominguez and the infrastructure team led by Secretary Tugade and Secretary Villar has shown in the past couple of years, under the Duterte administration, we have been able to already begin revving up infrastructure spending, more than doubling the average over the course of the past several administrations. We're now at 6% of GDP, at 1 trillion pesos in actual infrastructure outlay. And clearly, this must continue as a way to pump prime the economy moving forward. And infrastructure spending of the Philippines is already up there with the likes of China, India, and Vietnam. And this must continue. Looking at various summaries of stimulus packages of other countries, we can see that infrastructure is always a major component. For the US, infrastructure is there, $25 billion. For Malaysia, infrastructure is there as well. For Thailand, it is also there. And we feel that, as Secretary Dominguez pointed out a few weeks ago, build really will be the major fuel to bounce back the Philippine economy. And right now, and I just wanted to end with this, the members of the committees already have the copies of the current flagship infrastructure projects totaling roughly 4.2 trillion pesos, divided into government-funded projects at 168 billion, ODA at 2.3 trillion, and PPP at 1.8 trillion. I think it's very important for us in the coming days to not only look at how we fund these projects, but also look at the projects specifically and see if we can prioritize more, especially in the healthcare sector. As Congresswoman Kimbo pointed out earlier, we have to build economic resiliency. and we need to make very important decisions in terms of beefing up our healthcare infrastructure. With that, Mr. Chairman, I will end my presentation and will be very happy to answer questions from the members of the committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Secretary, President of the BCDA, Vince Dizon, for your presentation on the Build. We understand that the chairman of the GSIS and the president and the general manager as well, in the person of Mr. Rolando Macasayat, is ready and available to give his presentation on the positions of the GFIs like the GSIS. Mr. Rolando Macasayat, Chairman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Congressman Martin. Good afternoon, Speaker Cayetano. Thank you for this opportunity to allow me to report to the committee what GSIS has been doing so far. Can you hear me, Majo?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, and we can see your initial slide. Thank you.
Okay. Before I go to my slides, I just want to say, because this will be very short, Call Martin. What GSIS has done recently was where the following. First, all debts, including leases, rentals, and amortization of loans, we had a moratorium. So we moved the payments of March, April, and May to June of this year. For instance, the effect of this on a government employee is quite substantial. For instance, if the government employee has a loan with GSIS, say of $500,000 pesos, which we call the GFAL, the monthly amortization of this is about 9,000 a month. So for 3 months, the GSIS employee will now be able to, the GSIS member will be saving roughly 27,000. So that will be the net effect on his net take-home pay for the duration of this program. Next, I want to inform the body also that the GSIS, for the first time in its history, is granting an emergency loan program nationwide. The budget for this amount could run up to 30 billion pesos because it will cover about 2.2 million GSIS members. They're allowed to borrow. They'll be allowed to borrow 20,000 pesos each, payable over 3 years at only 6% interest per annum. So the amortization of this is only roughly 655 pesos a month. And they can avail of it now. What is very good about this program is they can apply for this facility online. They do not have to go to any GSIS office. All they have to do is to go to our website. It's gsis.gov.ph. I'll say that again, gsis.gov.ph. They can download the applications and apply online. Their second option is we have these machines. We have over 1,200 machines nationwide. They look like ATM machines. We call them GWAPs.
Hello?
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 Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Chairman. We can hear you. Your slide is not progressing, po.
No. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just move it for a while. 30 seconds. There you go. The emergency loan is about 20,000. It's 20,000 pesos per member. The interest rate is 6%, payable over 3 years, and the monthly amortization is only 655 pesos. What's interesting about this, Paul Martin, is that they can do it online. I'll say it again. They just go to our website, or they can go to these machines that we have. We call them GWAPs. We have about 1,200 all over the country. And all the teachers and government employees know where these are. And all they have to do is to go there, and they can apply online. And all the requirements and all the necessary documents can also be done online. Within about 3 to 4 working days, the amount, the 20,000, will be credited to the respective accounts with Land Bank of the Philippines or with the Union Bank. I would like also to thank Union Bank and Land Bank for the cooperation, because this is the first time we're doing this nationwide, so we had to coordinate with them as well. Second, I'm also happy to announce that GSIS has increased the life insurance of our medical frontliners. Today, Kong Martin, a GSIS frontliner, a medical frontliner, has a life insurance of about 300 to 500,000. We've increased it by additional 500,000. So for instance, a nurse who earns 20 or 30, say 30,000 a month, if anything happens to that frontliner, the insurance policy would only pay about 500,000. What GSIS is doing now, we added additional 500,000. So if, for instance, a nurse or a frontliner or a medical assistant in any provincial hospital now passes away, what happens is he gets an insurance of roughly 800,000 or 1 million, depending on his basic salary. And what we did, we also retroacted the effectivity, meaning this will be starting March 1. So all those, I think there were about 10 doctors and some nurses. All this new insurance policy will be in addition to what President Duterte gave of 1 million each. So if, it's sad to say, but if for these doctors, they got 1 million already, GSIS will add another million. So they'll receive a total of 2 million pesos. There you go. These are all for the frontliners under the DOH, health offices, rehab centers, including LGO hospitals, as long as they are members of GSIS. Another thing, this policy will be effective. It's March 12 there. That's actually March 1 up to December 2020. And not only will this insurance cover COVID-related deaths, but if you notice, even accidental deaths, meaning any frontliner, when he goes to the hospital or on his way back home, something happens to him, he is also covered by this insurance, Martin. This is the first time that GSIS is doing this in recognition of the heroic acts that our frontliners are doing for our country and for our people. Finally, I want you to know, aside from this insurance, we have additional loan facilities that a GSIS member or a pensioner can avail of. We have the salary loan, which is about, if you've been a member of GSIS for 20 months, you can get 3 months salary. If you're a member of GSIS for 15 years, you can get 1 year salary loan. And if you've been a member for 25 years, you can get 1 year and 2 months. And again, for the first time, what we did, and I would like to thank again Land Bank and Union Bank and the officers and staff of GSIS. For the first time, all of these now can be done online. You do not have to go to any GSIS office. Again, all you have to do is to go to our website, gsis.gov.ph, and you can just follow instructions there and you can avail of the loan facility. For this one, it will take you about 7 working days to be able to apply for this loan. Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader Martin, that will be my report. That's what GSIS is doing for our members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and PGM of the GSIS, Mr. Rolando Macasayat, for the relief and the added support that you are giving to all our government workers and employees. At this juncture, we shall
Thank you. Chala, how do you remote this?
Functioning unlimited capacity po.
No, I can.
Hello? Anybody there? Hello?
Yes, sir. Naayos lang po.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry I was disconnected for time being there. I was still introducing Chairman Joey Salceda on his history as a public servant in the 3rd district of his province in Albay. Joey was also a presidential economic advisor for 3 presidents, namely Presidents Joseph Ejercito Estrada, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and President Benigno Aquino. He is a known global investment analyst as he has worked with the Swiss Bank Corporation, Warburg, and ING Barings. Congressman Salceda will present economic interventions that will provide immediate relief to the vulnerable firms, thus minimize job destruction, prevent bankruptcies, and maintain the employment levels of firms. He is confident that with these proposals, the government can reduce the permanent damage to the economy and continue taking care of the people and lead them to comfortable lives for all after the pandemic. Essentially, he says that the Philippines has been through this and actually has come out stronger. That we have the instruments to bring back the economy to life, to a better life. Joey, are you available? And are you ready?
Unmuted. Okay, thank you.
Joey,
I'm okay now?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, next page. Congress as one through Bayanihan, together with ECQ, has prevented 50,000 infections and saved 3,000 lives, especially by elderly. Laws cannot resurrect the 300 lives lost to COVID, but certainly we have the instruments and the will to bring the economy back to life towards a comfortable life for everyone. Next. So, being an analyst, I always start with what are the trigger points. Of course, the basic trigger point is testing. So while awaiting a vaccine, it is testing that would determine a gradual return to normal business operations and vital functions. And we assume that it will take, that the Philippines will make inroads starting April 2020. Health considerations dictate a risk-modified ECQ and NCR and infection clusters around it till May 15. Social distancing will be retained for the rest of the zone, perhaps until June 30. The vaccine, the discovery of a vaccine is actually the most critical determinant of recovery. We assume that the vaccine will be found by 2021 and that it could be implemented by 2022. It makes a hell of a difference it is earlier. And lastly, what will determine what the national welfare is given our fiscal, monetary, and external advantages, it is actually the agility and the robustness of the structural response that would shape the complexion and the direction of Philippine socioeconomic prospects. Next. So the overall strategy is in 2020, we will save people and just give the economy a downside support so there will be no free fall. The deficit is 7 to 8%, of which 5 is already there due to the revenue shortfall at 1.5% of GDP, or roughly 350 billion, due to the impact of the slowdown on the revenues. In 2021, we will save firms, enterprises, and livelihoods and invest enough in the economy to save jobs. The deficit will be downward sloping to 6.5 to 7%. In 2020 to 23, hopefully with a vaccine, we will see a robust resumption of the growth trajectory to generate more jobs. And we see the deficit coming down from 6.5 to 4.5% of GDP. Next. So we will also answer in this presentation that our plan is proportional to the national need using the DSGE, and there's a that it is reasonable compared to other countries, that it is doable based on our previous episodes, and lastly, that it is financeable. Next. So the schematic representation, and we can easily actually reconcile this with the DOF model. Ours is more of phases rather than of pillars. So right now we are in the survival mode. Then we shift to a transitional mode in the second half of 2020, and then we can also start applying some of the more structural aspects of the stimulus beginning fourth quarter, or depending on our capacity to roll out. Next. So these are the priority programs for the survival stage, and much of what has been done by, of course, the executive already. Next. And that's basically, I think there's consensus that it will reach at least the minimum of 330 billion. And the priority programs for the transitional states, the only difference actually I have with Stella is that I recognize that I feel that the 43% informality of our labor sector must be taken care of by the DOLE, so I'm providing more TUPAD. And secondly, to stop so that social distancing could be retained in our schools, especially in college, that we already pay for the tuition fees. That's why, because private colleges are not letting go of 2 million private college students. Next. And then now we go to my structural stimulus program. Next. We begin with where who gets hurt. Of course, this comes from Sharon, the high exposure, moderate exposure, and low exposure. Next. So actually, I have several proposals, and these are actually, there are 4 basic proposals, which is really the NEIC, which is actually like Temasek or NDC, but more to rescue. And then, of course, I have the negative interest rate loans that basically, of course, would be proportional to the needs of the moderate exposure. And of course, for the low exposure, because they have domestic demand like SMEs. So I am proposing basically credit management, which could include, of course, the ability to helping us SMEs to deal with their lenders or their creditors, plus of course BBB. Next. So this is how it looks like. Although don't be afraid of the amounts, but essentially because there is a rollout. The negative interest rate loans, the National Emergency Investment Corporation, it is being supervised by the DOF. Actually, that is kabali-baliktad lang. And the Credit Mediation or Refinancing Service. And then, of course, there's no way we can see a stimulus without an enhanced build. So, next. So what is a negative interest loans? It's basically it's a loan that is essentially given to, of course, to SMEs or other large corporations, and that based on their the maximum cap is based on 50% of the company's direct labor cost, because we cannot be sustaining wage payroll or payroll subsidies for very long. And it shall be essentially payable in 3 to 5 years, but it can be longer. But the main difference, why do I insist on negative instead of zero? Because for a coming from the investment banking industry, essentially, once you give people a feeling of profit, then actually it incentivizes them to invest more. Actually, 87% of profits, if you give them to enterprises, they tend to invest it in capital expenditure. So I just wanted like to pump prime their feeling of profitability. They're essentially yung kanila pong pakiramdam na, because there are immediately like a trading gains. For example, if you lend them 100 million and the negative interest rate is 5 million, therefore instead of paying 6% more, they will actually benefit 10 million in terms of what you can call a trading gain, or although I think it's up to their accountant. Next. There are, of course, labor conditional penalties. Next. Next. And then, of course, there is the credit mediation and refinancing service. I think there is, a consensus here between the DOF from Stella and me, essentially providing for loan guarantees and other direct loans with more favorable terms for refinancing. And essentially, this is for SMEs, or we can, of course, target the M in the MSMEs. Next. And last and thirdly, this is the National Emergency Investment Corporation. This is really to minimize, this is akin to the CB ball, which is about 480 billion Marcos bad loans from DBP and PNB. That's 17.4% of nominal GDP. The thing there, of course, is you spread it out. And of course, by 2018, we just absorbed it. We hardly felt it. Of course, that is a salute to the DOF, because after its corporate life expired in 2018, the DOF was able to just inject it directly into our national debt. And of course, this is also akin to the power sector PISAM, where almost the stranded costs and stranded debt accounted for almost 20% of GDP. In short, these are like these are accumulated or sudden shocks that we could manage in a more orderly fashion. So essentially, it's like, I said, like a TEMA-SEC or an NDC, but essentially it is meant to invest in firms so that they don't go under. For example, for such basic industries such as airlines, hotels, tourism, etc., I think definitely this is the proportional response. Next. So these are the functions of what I call the Emergency Investment Corporation. Next. And I really see that once we get a vaccine, this will make a lot of money actually for government. It will take, I can see that there will be cash flows from all these three, from the CRMS, from the credit mediation, from the NIL. Of course, the NIL is a loose making, but of course, for the NIC, actually, it will, especially if you're able to wangle equity from for debt from these corporations. Next. So, ang example lang po dito ganito. Sa ngayon, dahil kay COVID, yung bangko nagpapautang sa firm pero high rates to account for risk. Next. So, ang mangyayari, yung bangko ngayon, ang gobyerno na ang mag-uutang sa merkado, pero yung NIC assumes the firms in exchange for equity, allowing it to continue operations. I really estimate that within 2.5 to 3 years, the firm's operations will go positive, and then they can buy back the NAIC stake, or they can pay off the loans of the NAIC, and of course we pay our commercial creditors or our market creditors. Next. Then the net fiscal cost actually of the structural measures, if you just use the carrying cost, is actually just no more than 5%. Because yung carrying cost lang po talaga ina-account mo. Like, for example, for 100 billion net negative interest loans, then it's only 5 billion. So we are talking about a stimulus program that is far higher. Next. So we need to see an enhanced build. And because, of course, check my figures, the multiply it. Without this, I think the rest will just be a big negative to our fiscal position. It is really build that essentially bring us the positive returns, especially using the DSG. If I could, well, of course, if you can run it next. But I think I think the president should be given special powers as well to expedite bill. That is the best thing that Congress, without spending more or allocating more, we can get more bang for the money in terms of policy rather than in terms of expenditure. Next. So essentially, we can have an enhanced bill with malasakit, chance to correct previous gaps through a health investment, and of course, including infrastructure supportive of creative industries and infrastructure for public schools of the future. And I think we should be able to invest somehow for health production, because we cannot allow this thing. If there's a single biggest insight or learning from this current episode in our national life is that we must have the means to save our own people. Next. So, plan feature, is it proportional? Is it reasonable? Is it doable? Is it financeable? Next. Now, if you look at the impact of the stimulus on GDP, the structural package and transitional package, the baseline growth without stimulus is negative 4.8. But with this stimulus, I think we can reduce the negative growth, because I'm a bit on the negative side in terms of my given, of course, the external demand. It's really bad. So for 2021, however, if you look at the external demand again, as you can see, the total stimulus package that on line 3 under 2021, it will produce 4%. This is using the DSG runs. So I think this will essentially enable the country, but you can have any assumption, but basically that will allow the country to go back to the positive territory by 2021. So what I'm saying is that it is proportional to our needs, because it restores us to a positive trajectory of growth. Next. So, is it how would you call it? Comparable, or I lost my words. Is it reasonable compared to other countries? If you look at Japan, 20% of GDP, their net debt to GDP is 237%. And of course, Singapore is 12%. Now, we look at the Philippines immediately. Bayanihan to Hilas 1 is just 1.8% of GDP. Bayanihan plus transitional, essentially of Stella, is 3.3. Bayanihan plus transitional plus structural, my own, is 3.6 if only the carrying cost is accounted for. And if this Bayanihan plus transitional plus gross of the structural, assuming you can roll out everything, including incremental BBB, that is only 8.7. Of course, we can have several assumptions for these numbers. Next. So, this is one parallels in history. This is the PISAM Corporation. If you look at this chart, actually it shows you that at its peak in 2003, actually PISAM as percentage of GDP was actually 25%. Next. But we were able to prove that we can resolve these cumulative fiscal or inherited fiscal issues over time. And this is CB debt as percentage of GDP. From 17% is down to only 5%. Next. So in short, what I am trying to say here is that this is very much doable. So is it financeable? Based on the ability of of course, the DOF, I think we can increase the BSP repurchase agreements to 500 from the current 300. And then, of course, we have existing market borrowing program for our 350 billion, 650 billion deficit for 2020. And then, of course, we now have, I think, commitments to the DOF of multilateral lenders by like ADB, World Bank. Anyway, so next. So it is financeable. So with this, I would like to congratulate, of course, for the DOF and, of course, Congress. I think together as one, we can heal and grow this nation. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you very much, Chairman Joey Salceda, for your very, very lucid and very, very thorough presentation. We shall await your initiatives in your respective committees. We know that Co-Chair Kong Stella Kimbo has a bill ready. If that could be worked out and consolidated with your previously filed measures, and incorporate, among others, the powers that you feel that the president needs, and also, of course, what the DOF requires in terms of legislations for the net operating loss carryovers. As soon as we could possibly can, the House, the Speaker's pleasure, we will initiate the proper referrals so that you could hit the boards running, if not sooner. So thank you very much, Chairman Joyce Salceda, for your wonderful presentation. At this point, we would like to invite our good chairperson for the Committee on Appropriation in the person of Congressman Eric Yap to give his presentation to be followed, and the presentations will wind up with Deputy Speaker El Rey Villafuerte. So Congressman Chairman Eric Yap, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all our guests, Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, and to my colleagues in Congress. First of all, I would like to thank all the members of the executive led by Finance Secretary Sunny Dominguez for your enlightening message to our Filipino people. Rest assured that we in the House of Representatives will continue to work hard to look for ways to help our national government to get through these trying times. I just want to assure the Filipino people na hindi po kami matutulog nila Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, Deputy Speaker Paulo Duterte, at ng mga kasamahan ko sa Kongreso sa paghahanap ng paraan na masiguradong may pondo ang gobyerno sa pagtulong sa mga mamamayang Pilipino. At muli po, ang panawagan ko po ay kalimutan muna natin ang kulay sa politika at awayan sa politika, at tayo po ay magkaisa bilang Pilipino para labanan ang COVID-19. May God bless us all, at maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Chairman Eric Yap. We would like now to invite Deputy Speaker El Rey Villafuerte to make his presentation.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, Speaker. Basically, we would like to assure the people that the government, Congress is here to help. We understand the problems. We are your representatives in the various districts. We know the problem. An ordinary farmer now has borrowed money to plant. They don't know when to harvest. They don't know when they can sell their harvest. We know their concerns, the ordinary tricycle driver, the ambulant vendor. Basically, what we would like to assure the people is that Congress is here to help. Congress is here to partner with the executive branch to solve the problem arising from this pandemic. Not only do we want to save lives, but of course we want to save the economy. So basically, we're here and we will respond to the needs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker El Rey Villafuerte. At this point, we would like now to ask the Secretary General and his staff, Darren, to open up the forum for questions and answers from the media.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have a few members from the media with their questions ready to be asked. First on the list is Ms. Mara Cepeda of Rappler. Mara?
Hello? Can you hear me po?
Yes, Mara, you can be heard.
Okay,
ahead,
okay.
Mara.
Okay, I'd like to ask, how would you respond to a recent statement by Ibon Foundation, Ibon Foundation Sony Africa, saying that the government can forgo funding some infrastructure projects, particularly those geared towards promoting tourism, since the feasibility studies for these were done before the COVID-19 pandemic and they may no longer give back the intended returns. Do we agree to this? So perhaps we can reallocate the money somewhere else. Is this something that's feasible right now?
Mara, who are you directing the question to?
Nandito po ba si Presidential Advisor Vince Dizon?
Secretary, Vince, are you still around?
Basically, can I answer just briefly,
Sige po.
Majority Leader?
DSLA is around to
Basically, Mara, what I think everybody has agreed based on the presentation of the executive branch, the legislative branch, particularly Stella, Sharon, and Joey, infrastructure really is the fuel that will drive our economy back on its feet. No, in other countries, they're really part of their economic stimulus is infrastructure. So, infrastructure in general should be the last to be touched because it's a priority, whether in tourism, whether building roads, bridges, whether it's small or big infra, because it has a multiplier effect. If you build, as Stella's presented, for every peso spent, it has a multiplier of 1.53. So basically, what we're looking at is infrastructure really is needed to bounce back the economy.
Jo, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may add, with all due respect to Mr. Africa, I disagree twice. Well, first of all, infrastructure is very, very important. I mentioned the multiplier of 1.53, tandang-tanda pa ni DSLA. But actually, for infrastructure, the multiplier is more than 1.53. It's actually between 3 to 4. So it's yung 1.53 na multiplier is just for all kinds of spending by government. But if you think about only infra spending, the multiplier is tremendous. It's at least 3. So that's my first disagreement. Number 2, tourism. Tourism is the hardest hit. So tama po na magkakaroon po tayo ng mas konti pong tourist arrivals. But while we are waiting for the tourists come back to the Philippines, dapat tulungan natin ang mga nasa tourist industry to renovate their facilities. Ito na nga po yung sinasabi po natin, responding to the new normal. Sila po nasa service industry. So napakahirap po na nasa service industry. You have to think of new ways to deal with what life will be after COVID. So yun lang po.
On another, can I ask a second question? But this is on another matter. Last night, the president said that the government will also begin giving aid to families in need who are not part of the list of DSWD. Were we able to speak to the executive branch kung saan po kunin to? How many families are we talking about here? Because as it stands, even the DSWD is already, having difficulty giving out the cash aid, the emergency subsidy sa mga kasama sa listahan sa ngayon?
Well, Mara, aside from the 18 million households targeted by the social amelioration, part of the package is also yung mga nawalan ng trabaho, whether OFW, those people in the formal sector, the sector, particularly yung MSMEs na nawalan ng trabaho, nawalan ng hanap buhay. So I think that's what the president was referring to, over and above the 18 million households that will benefit from the social amelioration program.
Around how much are we expecting to be given out, sir? Meron na po ba tayong estimates na nakuha?
Well, I think Secretary Dominguez can answer that, particularly on the MSMEs. No?
Mara?
Hi, sir.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. First, thank you very much sa lahat ng house media, mga kapatid natin sa media, and yung mga bloggers who tuned in today. It's very important that we did this in public and even if stay at home tayo lahat, because it's not for the policymakers alone. This should be a decision of the country and we should involve people, not only inform them. So kumbaga, hindi mo pwedeng hintay ng election and then elect people who will vote in accordance with their conscience or their platform. You're part of the discussion now. So whether we agree or not with even data banks and other suggestions, they're welcome. And to answer your question directly, so as I said sa isang Facebook explanation ko, no, nung nag-live, diba, if you have 8 children, yung dalawa walang trabaho, yung isa may sakit, yung isa may maliit na negosyo pero walang kita now, and yung apat or yung dalawa maganda ang kita, and suddenly may family calamity, who do you help first? So when the government said poorest of the poor, hindi ibig sabihin na yung poor, near poor, and yung middle class hindi kasali. So, but since there's never been a program that helps people in na ganito ka-massive, no? So the easiest way to subdivide was formal economy sa informal. So sa formal, you have 6.6 million Filipinos. Sa informal, you have 18 million Filipinos. So if I may just put on the screen, no, if you look at okay there. So yan po ang hatian sa first wave dun po sa DSWD, no. So if you look, it does total let me just yeah. It does total 18 million families, or to be exact, 17,956,000. Now, what is the problem? The problem is, if you look at the National Capital Region, you look at Region 3 and 4B or Calabarzon, or collectively known as Greater Metro Manila, makikita nyo it's 54% in Metro Manila, 66% in Region 3, and 64% in Region 4. So what's happening here, Mara, is that in most other regions, makikita mo the list is Region 7, 74%. But if you look at Region 8, 83%, Region 10, 80%, Region 9, 81%. No? So what does this mean? This means kaya naririnig nyo yung complaints are mostly from Metro Manila, Calabarzon, and other places because outside these three regions, 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 Filipino families makakakuha. No? But does that mean that we excluded people, or the economic team excluded people from NCR Region 3 and 4A? Hindi po. Ito po yung may mga middle class, ito po yung nasa formal economy. Dito po papasok yung sinasabi ni Sec Sani na next program nila, which ang target date is first week of May. Last week sa Zoom namin with the cabinet, it was at 35B. Pero ang last na kanilang computation, just etong tanghali, no? It's already around 50B. So I think Yusek Carl is listening now, and if he wants to give details now, or let Sec Sani do the announcement later on. But what's happening, Mara, is ganito, no? Nung una, if you look at the rules of the SWD, yung form will be used to identify. So kung makikita mo dito sa form, you will see that may logo lahat ng ayan, no? So pag tinignan mo yung form, may logo lahat ng departments, di ba? Kasi, for example, DOTR was tasked to take care of some of the public utility vehicles. The DOLE, para dun sa mga natanggal sa trabaho on no work, no pay. Yung DFA, transporting them back here, but DOTR and DILG sa kanilang quarantine, and then OWA or other funds para sa social amelioration nila, no? But then a decision was made not to give everyone a form because everyone might think there are several reasons, no? But one thing that I can think of is that they don't want people to think just because my form makaka-expect. Kasi remember, we did it by families. So ang problema mo, if naipit ka sa quarantine at nandito ka sa Manila, let's say nasa construction ka, ang asawa at mga anak mo nasa Tarlac, who gets the 8,000 dito or doon? That's why my food packs then, no? So bottom line, sa haba ng sinasabi ko, yun ang usapan namin kanina. How do we have better coordination among departments to make sure that everyone gets. Nung umpisa, the focus was wag dumoble, but it was slowing things down. So DSWD, together with, and I have to thank si Asek Joy and si Yusek Dan, Yusek Amy, DSL Ray, na-streamline yung Memorandum Circular 567 into a new guidelines. So mas mabilis na ngayon. No? Dati, there's 4 steps of verification. So in the next few days, mararamdaman na ng tao yung labas ng 18 million. Doon sa 6.6 million families, hindi naman sila zero aid ngayon, di ba? So whether it's interest rates, it's penalties, moving taxes, prohibiting people from kicking them out, evicting them, kicking out the house, meron yung mga yan, no? So what we're doing today is we're putting together the ideas ng house. So I didn't catch kanina because I was still in conference call. If Congresswoman or Chairperson Sharon mentioned, this although si Kong Joey, Kong Sharon, and Kong Stella nag-present, and most of it is their work, there were 30 position papers, and there were several, baka Sharon, you can share that again, no? Na how you came up with all of this, how many meetings, no? So basically, Mara, to answer you directly, there are programs that don't need legislation because pasok na siya dito sa Bayanihan We Heal as One. Meron that will require legislation like the stimulus, no? So follow up na lang kung hindi pa rin malinaw yung sinabi ko. But let me turn over quickly to Sharon. Sharon, what was the process in getting all of this?
Mr. Speaker, thank you. We created the virtual meetings, online meetings with the subcommittee, 10 members, tapos yung economic affairs, mga 35 members. And then we also organized a meeting with all the stakeholders and businessmen. So, and then since all the members also of the subcommittee are chairmen of their respective committees, each committee had their own position papers, and all the stakeholders under their each committee, halimbawa sa transport, shipping, trucking, and all those, they also submitted position papers. So, but in the end, dahil magagaling tong mga ekonomista namin, we all discussed together with all the stakeholders and then the members, and then we came up. This is an evolving idea, and we are hoping now we come in after ECQ, and Stella and Joey are actually the ones running the numbers na kung ano ba the best situation for us and what are the proposals. And I think that we have very good proposals right now. So it's up to, just give us time so we can consolidate and we will present it eventually.
Mara, no? So basically what we're doing, what we started today in public, but we've been doing our homework, is to harmonize yung health strategy with the economic strategy. So we all know that the virus is a killer at sobrang nakakahawa, and a very effective means is a lockdown or quarantine. But we also know that it kills the economy, and if it kills the economy, then, or at least it weakens the economy, and if people don't have money, they can die because of hunger, lack of medicine, etc. No? So that's what we're trying to harmonize now. So medyo clear naman yung health strategy so far as the quarantine. No? On Thursday, you'll hear about PPEs, about mass testing and everything, so that ma-harmonize natin. And then very clear din na ng Pangulo, and Senator Bongo was on the conference call kanina and kept on emphasizing ang gusto ng Pangulo, walang magutom, walang hindi makatanggap. But remember, we did not choose to give individuals. We chose to do it by family. And wala naman sigurong LGU na, kasi wala tayong national ID. So it's actually a good time to think about all of this. And if how we can learn from all of this. But right now, it's really the day-to-day survival na nakatutok pa rin ang gobyerno. But what Joey and Sharon and Stella presented is the day after tomorrow, how we will rise again. And to go back to your first question about tourism infra, personally, ang sinabi ko sa kabinete, everything's on the table. Yung buong budget kailangan pag-usapan, di ba? Because we're talking about two things, survival during this period that we're fighting COVID and that we're in good shape after so that maka-rise up ulit yung ekonomiya. So, specific yung sagot sa iyo ni Stella, and remember, in tourism, for every tourist, for every 1 or 2 tourists, 2 to 4 jobs are created. No? So it's a very inclusive industry. That's why in Southeast Asia and around the world, even in Japan, ang tourism talaga tinututukan din. So it might not sound right now like something you want to invest in because nga no one can go out. But it takes time for this infrastructure. No? So I also heard from the President na gusto niyang focus yung mga matatapos na infra kasi gusto nating gamitin, di ba? Right away, and then we can move on to the next one. But katulad ng mega subway in Metro Manila, that will take 10 years. Kahit anong gawin natin, kahit triplin natin yung hindi naman matatapos yun by the time na matapos ang term ni Presidente. So I think there's a lot of things to be discussed. And Chairman Eric and DSLRA will be meeting with Sec Avisado and some of the USECs to look at two things, yung budget ng 2020 and of course yung natira noong 2019 because we extended it for 1 year. And then they're already going to start to talk about 2021. Pero tama si Joey, it's so hard to think about 2021 na yung factors, may vaccine ba, may gamot ba, magwo-work ba yung quarantine, intangible pa yung mga yun.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Darren, can you introduce the next media? And also, could you ask them to direct the question to any specific resource person or to any of the chairpersons or the Kongs? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mara from Rappler. Next on the list is Miss Kathleen Forbes of Radio Pilipinas. So, as mentioned by our majority leader, kindly direct your question to the person who you wish to answer it. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon po. Although nabanggit na rin po kasi ni Speaker Cayetano kanina dun sa end nung pagsagot niya, may question po sana is is there kino-consider po ba ng leadership to have changes sa legislative calendar nga po so that you can start tackling yung second wave na po nitong measures against COVID-19 as well as yung dun sa 2021 budget process. And then yung second question po sana is, iko-consider din po ba natin yung pag-tweak or additional po dun sa figure ng ating proposed 2021 national budget considering po na itong first quarter ng 2020 we have yung Taal volcano eruption and this COVID-19 po. So yun po yung two questions.
Okay, yes, for the House leadership, since Speaker is not on right now, yes, the Speaker and the Senate President will confer as to any adjustments vis-a-vis the legislative calendar. However, as you can see already, we are already doing everything we can to fast track so that when we are supposed to resume on May 4, we will hit the board running, so to speak, and we'll be ready to tackle and already implement all our initiatives. Speaker, there's a question on the possibility of adjustments to the legislative calendar. I basically stated that you will be conferring with the Senate President for any possible adjustments, if any. Speaker.
2 weeks ago, Senator Mig Subiri, the Majority Leader, already communicated that let's play it by week kung kaya May 4. No? But let me assure the public that if ever we move the calendar so that we can be able to be more responsible and practice social distancing and remember, even senators kahit 24 plus the staff and plus their guests, lumalampas ng 50 yan eh. Much more congressmen and women. So we will tackle that week by week, but anytime we're called to a special session, we will do that. So all of us are grappling talaga what will be the new normal, no? Or do we go back on May 4 but do it virtual pa rin muna or through teleconferencing? So that's being discussed, but let me assure you, whatever is best for the nation, in however way we can help. No? But siguro dun sa mga ibang nakikinig, bakit importante may session? Because kung kailangan ipasa yung batas, dun gagalaw. So we can have hearings now, we can do committee reports and everything, but it won't become a law unless we convene in session. But if it's an urgent, just like yung Bayanihan Vigilas one, we'll do that anytime. No? We can have a hearing, a session anytime. And it was, by the way, it was Mig's Sudiri's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday. And kay Charlie Cuangco today, happy birthday sa inyo, even if nagsa-self-quarantine.
Sir, follow-up ko lang po. Enough na po yung proposed na 4.6 kung hindi po ako nagkakamali. Parang 4.6 po yung pinopropose for 2021. So magsistick pa rin po ba dun sa figure na yun, considering nga po na itong first quarter pa lang ng 2020, meron na tayong Taal volcano eruption and then COVID-19. Meron na po ba tayo na pag-usapan na gano'n amongst the leadership po and sa executive po, cabinet?
Well, I'll give you a quick reaction, then I'll bring you back to Joey kasi part nito ng presentation niya kanina. So although it's Deputy Speaker El Rey and Chairman Eric who's going to go to the DBM tomorrow, remember yung budget depends on yung pumapasok to taxes and other fees and how much you're willing to finance or borrow. So Joey, ang tanong is, if you look at the level, is 4.6 good enough for next year or we have to do better than that?
Cut 4.6
trillion pesos sa budget.
Baka ano lang, less 350 lang. Gawa lang nung revenue impact. Baka hindi basta-basta mabawi. Hindi naman tayo makapag-wiz. So I think we'd rather see a 5 to 6% growth rather than an 11% growth in the total budget. Kasi ngayon 4.1 tayo, we're bringing it up to 4.6. So I think even Sexhani would say that 5 to 6% less 2.5% inflation, that will give you at least mga 3% GDP growth rate, given that the base this year is a bit but pwede naman natin ilagay yon sa I would say off budget kasi ang basically if you look at my proposal, a lot of that would be I think what we can call out of organic budget. So may leeway naman tayo like before. Yung PISAM was not in the budget. TV ball was not in the budget. But we were able to squeeze, I think, some of the major painful adjustments out of the budget. So that is essentially yung kung bakit po nag-propose po ako para po yung mga painful elements need not be in the organic budget, which actually promotes growth. So ang point ko, 6% budget growth, I think, is feasible, but the 300 billion, I think we can still I don't know about Sexhani, but it's still around. So I think it's yung 300 billion lang po talaga pag-usapan dahil suddenly bumagsak po yung revenue natin by 350 billion. Yun po ang forecast.
Kathleen, just to add,
siguro,
sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, El Rey, na you and Chairman Yap will be meeting with DBM Secretary tomorrow, and I'm sure you'll bring that up. So sa Thursday after the health presentations, feel free to ask that question again para at least hindi lang point of view ng Kongreso but also the point of view of the administration. Sorry, Deputy Speaker.
Just Kathleen, just to add to add further to your question kasi kung mag-stick. Actually, siyempre, whatever budget we will pass for 2021, we will have to take in consideration, the COVID situation and the economy. When you do a budget, basically, it's basically ilan yung collection at ilan yung uutangin. So we can safely assume, as projected by the DOF and even Joey, na kukonti ang collection because humina ang negosyo. However, we are in a good fiscal position. We can borrow money. Kumbaga, we are bankable. Sabi nga ni Joy, financeable. So I think we can stick to that budget based on a reprioritization at i-assume natin dadagdag lang yung tinatawag na debt to GDP ratio. Dadagdag lang. But I think we really need to spend not only to survive but to recover.
Agree.
Thank you po.
Ma'am,
Ay, yes po.
dagdag ko lang, part of the discussions namin sa economic stimulus is hindi naman babawasan yung infrastructure, but it enhance actually. That's the idea of Joey na let's move some of the hindi babawasan pero ilagay yung iba for improvement on health investments, infrastructure for public infrastructure for public schools of the future. Kasi we have learned that these are things that we have to prioritize. So at least we can look at it na ngayon na we've learned our lesson and then we can improve on the build projects as well.
For example, Kathleen, just to add, yung hospital to ratio ng population, makikita mo, I think dapat ang requirement yata as per WHO is 0.1%. Kumbaga, X number of beds for a population. We realize na kulang talaga. So, sa Congress, definitely, if we're going to invest in infrastructure, unahin natin yung public health infrastructure because of the situation. Something like that. But it's a matter of reprioritization. But at the same time, taking in consideration, will it create jobs? Will it save lives? Yung ganun ba?
Alright, okay na po. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next on the list po is Mr. Ryan Pakpako, People's Journal. Ryan?
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Hello.
Hi, we hear you, Ryan. Go ahead.
Hindi signal. Magandang hapon po, Speaker Alan, Madjo Martin at inyong lahat. For Madjo Martin, sir, may we have your assessment of today's TWG meeting? Were you able to achieve the objectives?
I believe so. With the leadership of the speaker and with our partners in this endeavor to address the COVID, our Secretary of Finance and members of the cabinet are one with the House of Representatives in ensuring that we will be able to meet the needs, the urgent needs of yung mga nangangailangan talaga, pinakamahirap, all the way up to those in the business sector with the package that has been envisioned and has been presented today with the refinements. Kaya po, we are very, very happy that it's a good start. At para makita na lahat that miski nga may break tayo, hindi naman tayo nagmumukha dito. Lahat nagtatrabaho, sina mga co-chairs natin, sunod-sunod yung mga hearings nila via Zoom. At itutuloy natin to kay ito ang mandato ni ating speaker sa lahat, lalo dito sa DCC natin na isasagawa natin lahat para wala dapat ang magugutom, wala dapat mawala trabaho at dapat yun po ang talagang sinasabing malasakit sa ating mga kapong tao. We have to do everything for everyone. So I think we're very successful in getting the ball rolling here. And this will just be the first of many hearings that the Speaker has mandated the DCC to be a part of and to meet with the various cluster co-chairs. The next will be health, followed by the social amelioration and the peace and order clusters. Thank you, Ryan.
Sir, thank you po, Sir Madjo Martin. Speaker Alan, good afternoon. Have you discussed this initiative to draft a proposed legislation on economic stimulus bill with your Senate counterparts? And for sure, ever, ito ay possibly one of the priorities of your leadership when Congress resumes on May 4. Sir, meron ho ba tayong timetable sa passage ng bill na ito?
As far as coordination with the Senate, we'll wait first for Chair Joey, Chairperson Sharon, and Congresswoman Stella to put together our proposal, then we don't have to wait for the usual program process na meron ng BICAM, di ba? We can be creative. Having said that, we are talking to the executive, and I know for a fact that the Senate is talking also directly to the executive. So lahat ito ASAP yung rollout. So the stimulus itself, as explained by, for example, Chairman Joey, will take some time, and kailangan talaga niyan full debates on legislation. But yung aid na pinag-usapan ni Kong Stella and Kong Sharon, as we speak, the executive department is drafting and putting in our inputs. No? In the same manner na nagpapasalamat kami sa DSWD, through the experience of members of Congress na naging governor, naging mayor, naging konsehal, naging barangay captain, nakatulong tayo na ayusin yung guidelines to make it more simple. I think you'll feel this more in the next few days. Ang economics kasi can be so theoretical to many of us until hawak na natin yung pera. So really, it's the health and social amelioration right now na talagang tututukan ng tao because you need it ASAP or right away or ramdam mo kaagad. But I'm confident with the manner it was presented today. Seksani already texted me that it was a great idea. Bihira po na nag-enjoy ang secretaries to be in hearings. No? So the mere fact that we're together and bihira din po na hindi headlines ang unang hinahabol ng media, but makikita niyo po ngayon, all the questions was really out of part of the discussion and how we can come up with the best plan. So I think this is the kind of mindset and paradigm we need to defeat COVID-19 before we go back to the usual normal. Thank you, Ryan.
Mr. Speaker. Sir?
Yes, Sharon. With the permission ni Major.
Kasi Sir Ryan, we are on ECQ, di ba? So ngayon kailangan bigyan ng mga amelioration yung mga tao dahil makapagtrabaho. And after ng ECQ, recovering pa tayo. Pero immediately after that, anong gagawin ng mga tao? Baka magsara yung mga negosyo. So it is very admirable that the speaker is doing this because kahit wala pa tayo sa stage na next na yan, nagpaplano na tayo. We need to act fast. Kasi baka hintayin pa, kung hintay pa natin to na matapos yung ECQ at kung ang effects of COVID, and then we start planning, too late na. Magsasara na yung mga negosyo. So at least ngayon, may assurance na yung mga negosyante at mga trabahador na there is something in place once all these COVID problems are finished. And that is what is the achievement yata ng speaker ngayon. Na he put it forward na eto magplano na tayo. Huwag tayong maghintay na matapos ang first phase natin, tsaka na lang tayo magplano. And that I think is the best achievement today. Thank you po.
Salamat po. Ma'am, sir, pwede po bang isang tanong?
Yeah,
sir,
before that, Ryan, by the way, with your permission, Major, Chairman, and Ryan, the media was put at the end so that you can listen to the presentation, but you're part of the conversation. So if you have proposals then, especially dun sa ang beat nila, it's more on business and economics, we're here we don't want this to be too formal, na parang kung sino lang ang bisita, di ba? Or resource person. It's a TWG precisely so that all of you can put in your input. So kung tinetext din kayo ng readers nyo or watchers nyo at may input, go ahead po. It's most welcome during this time.
Thank you po. Speaker, sa inyo po rin itong tanong ko. Meron po pang update for possible simplification ng DSWD guidelines? Kasi sir, may mga nakausap ako na isa sa mga requirements, sir, if you are a public official, barangay councilor, automatic po hindi ko siya qualified doon sa social amelioration program. Tapos merong mga tao ayaw kumuha ng tulong sa tupad ng Department of Labor kasi madi-disqualified naman sila sa social amelioration program na mas malaki yung ibinibigay ng gobyerno. Ngayon nga po, inaprubahan ng Presidente yung proposal ni Kong Joey Salceda na payroll protection program for middle class. yung wage subsidy. Kung yung kung yung middle class ay tinutulungan, paano ho yung mga pangkaraniwang barangay kagawad ho na kailangan din naman ho ng tulong? Actually, lahat po kailangan ng tulong ngayon. Yun lang po.
Speaker, you have to unmute.
Speaker.
Speaker, you have to unmute the speaker.
Karen, unmute the speaker.
Sorry. I was saying, Deputy Speaker El Rey, can you answer muna yung sa DOLE?
Okay.
I-edit ko lang itong papakita ko sa Ryan at mga kapatid natin sa media kung paano na-simplify yung sa DSWD. But at least sa DOLE, and you might want to talk about the help of COA also, please.
Well, Ryan, tama yung concern mo. Una-una, yung proseso napakahaba. In fact, yung SAC form napaka-komplikado, nakaka-intimidate. No? But to directly answer your question sa tupad, totoo po yan. Kasi sa amin, sa Bicol, ang tupad, 310 pesos a day for 10 days. So, ang matatanggap lang nila, 3,100. So, yung iba ayaw nang sumama dahil ang matatanggap nila sa amin dapat sa social amelioration, 5,000. So, tama yung sinabi mo. At nag-initiative po si Speaker, kami nakipag-ugnayan sa DSWD. Ang magandang balita po, dun sa lumabas na omnibus guideline nila, ay nilinaw na nila na kung ang target ng social amelioration at 5,000, ang tupad mo lang ay 3,100, magta-top up sila ng 1,900 para mapantay. So yun sa mga nangangamba na hindi na sila makakakuha ng 5, kung nakakuha sila sa DOLE tupad ng 3,100, dadagdagan sila ng 1,900 para ma-top up yung 5,000 at sa sunod na buwan, makakakuha na sila 5,000 basta qualified sila. So, ina-identify po namin na kanila Speaker, umabot ng mga almost, I think, dati more than 20, almost 30 steps para makakolekta ng social amelioration. Ngayon po na-simplify na. But maski na-simplify na po, ang Kongreso po, under the Defeat COVID Committee, under the leadership of Speaker Cayetano, gusto pa nating ma-simplify yan. Kasi talagang kailangan talaga mapabilis eh. So, yung rason dun sa isa pa Raya, no? Yung barangay certification na you are entitled, natanggal na rin yun doon sa bagong guideline. Kasi isipin mo, sa isang barangay kunwari sa isang malaking lugar, ang qualified beneficiary 2,000. Isipin mo pipila yung 2,000 para makakuha ng certificate barangay. So natanggal na yon. At kung kulang sila ng ID at wala silang mga dokumento, doon papasok na pwedeng i-certify ng barangay. Pero as a requirement, natanggal na rin. Then yung COA po, Congress under the leadership of Speaker Alan, nakipag-ugnayan po kay COA Chairman na ma-download po sa LGU yung mga pondo. Kasi based on COA rules, hindi ka pwede mag-download kung merong pending unliquidated. Eh napakaraming LGU hindi pa nakaka-liquidate. So, malaking accomplishment po ng Congress yan na nakipag-ugnayan kay Chairman Mike Aguiado ng COA na napasimplify yan. At the same time, meron tinatawag na Financial Accountability Report. Winive na muna yan for now. Magkakaroon lang yan sa post-audit. So, mga technical issues po na sinusolve po ng Kongreso para mapabilis po yung proseso ng SAC.
Thank you po, DS.
So, ito Ryan yung tinatanong mo, no? This is the summary lang to kasi mahabang proseso.
Opo, Speaker.
But basically, yung Memorandum Circular number 4567 ng DSWD was replaced by Sec. Rolly Bautista with a omnibus guidelines. Ito lang summary, no? So upon signing of MOA with LGUs, within 24 hours, the funds will be transferred. And most, kung hindi all, nagawa na yan. The LGU must conduct the payout within 5 days. 7 days sa ibang mga masyadong rural, no, na magkakalayo yung bahay. So we're expecting in the next few days, mararamdaman na yan. No? Number 2, from the original 30-step process of distribution, it's now to 4 steps. Upon door-to-door collection of SAC forms from each the non-CCTV families, DSWD verify on the spot and check for completeness of info eligibility, etc. No? So, hindi ko na-explain yung haba ng process dati, but ngayon, may listahan yung LGU nung target nila, yung target bibigyan ng form, on the spot i-validate na. Dati kasi parang 4 yung validation, no? As I said, dati kasi yung old normal, sobra ang check and balance para nga hindi manakaw yung pera. Ngayon, it's still important na hindi manakaw ang pera, but it's important that we get it to them ASAP and less contact or social distancing, no? Then LGUs given 15 days to liquidate. For expanded grievance mechanism, ito po yung pinag-usapan namin kanina sa cabinet, yung pong appeal system. So I was asking the DSW, right now, any LGU, no? So for example, yung barangay captain of barangay 125, and ang binigay lang sa'yo 500, ang tingin mong qualified 700, you can appeal the 200. So what we're asking DSWD is kung may standard form ba sila and kung pwedeng yung mayors ang mag-submit sa kanila. Yan din po ang hinihintay nila Seksani because they don't want to just increase the amount dun sa 18 million kung qualified pala dun sa 6.6 million kasi magdodoble o magtriple yung programa. So I know what I'm telling you is very technical, but I'm just answering your question. Bottom line, we'll try to get it to them to the fastest possible time, no? So yan ang example lang po. But we can give you a copy of the guidelines pala so that we can see it's much more simple. So kung nakikinig sa atin yung ibang LGUs ngayon, meron po iba na di-delay because they thought that they have to give the list to DSWD, revalidate, etc. Inayos na po yung guidelines niyan para mas mabilis na po yan. And dun po sa inyo na hindi na mapapasama, pabayaan nyo po muna mabigyan yung lahat ng kasama sa 18 million. Because aside from the appeal process, there are other programs of government that will come in. So right now, Ryan, it's really more about the coordination. Kasi kung, let's say, tricycle driver ka, so pwede ka dun sa DOTR, LFRB. But then asawa mo, daily wage earner na natanggal. Pero may anak kayong PWD, di ba? And may lolo't lola kayo na So pwede ka talagang maguluhan sa sa guidelines at saan mo kukunin. But ang point really is to get 5,000 to 8,000 pesos a month into people's hands so that mabayaran at mabili nila yung kailangan nila.
Thank you po, Speaker.
Thank you, Ryan. Darren?
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you po, Madjo. Salamat po.
Speaker Madjo, Ryan is the last class report who has a question here in our Zoom meeting. However, we have one reporter na nakikiusap po kung if we could ask her question because hindi po siya makasali due to technical difficulties. If I may po, Madjo?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, her name is Eden Santos from Net25. This is the last question. Here it is. President Rodrigo Duterte orders the immediate purchase of rapid test kits to help contain COVID-19. Despite the lack of approval from the country's Food and Drug Administration or FDA, Duterte says he will take the risk and approve the purchase of the test kits. Her question is, what would be the implication of the president's action if there is any, and what will Congress do to help? Thank you.
Can I give a short answer to that? First of all, may kanya-kanyang explanation and yung experts have weighed in. No one ever said that it's useless or makakasama yung rapid test kits. Ang sinasabi lang, meron siyang pwedeng paggamitan at meron mga sitwasyon na hindi. So this will be part of our topic on Thursday. And also yung mass testing. Meron kasing notion na mass testing is most of the population or everyone will be testing. But personally, unless we have one of our doctors or experts dito on health, I'd rather na sa Thursday masagot yon. Or if you want to call directly Chairperson Helen and Deputy Minority Leader Garin tomorrow or today to answer that, no. But definitely PPEs, testing, yung health strategy is what will be discussed on Thursday, and I expect more questions during that time. And we are trying to get, kung this time ang guest natin sa economic team, aside from the DOH, we want to invite former health secretaries and yung mga public health advocates like Dr. Susie Mercado, like Doc Willie Ong, no? Those who have been communicating and explaining all of this.
Thank you po, Speaker. No further questions, Mr. Chair. That is all from the
Okay.
media.
Thank you, Darren, and Speaker, thank you so much. If there are no more questions,
Si Joey ata, Major.
Yes, I can see
Let's
Joey.
have Joey have the last word. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, may I move that this TWG be terminated and that a formal report be done, and therefore for appropriate
Action.
report or action, so that by that we can as well. Of course, that doesn't mean that we cannot consult other institutions or organization, but nonetheless, I think it's better if you already come up with an integrated and basic consolidated version of my proposal and the proposal of Stella, as well as all the other, of course, the proposal of the DOF, so that we can come up with something that can be a staging point for further action by both Congress or the executive.
Speaker, there's a motion. There's a motion. Is Chairman Sharon willing to second that one?
If I understand the motion, we create a consolidated bill to be submitted to the Mother Committee. Is that correct, Kong Joey?
Yes, Sharon.
Together.
Ikaw naman gagawa.
I second the motion.
Co-Chair Stella, any objections from Co-Chair Stella Kigo?
No.
Okay, so the chair hears no objection. Said motion is carried. And at this point, Mr. Speaker, unless there is anything more that anyone else would like to add, including your good self, Speaker, we shall entertain the motion to
just
adjourn
our
the
gratitude
TWG.
our gratitude to the three chairs and everyone joining us today. But more so, everyone who's in the background, yung staff po na nag-arrange nito at yung iba pumasok pa. And yung congressional staff who helped us put it together. And 300 members of Congress who are not on your screen now, but have been working hard not only with their constituents. So eventually, baka late next week, we will have a more traditional hearing. But I think we're able to spend more time on getting a consensus and explaining to people what's happening by doing it this way. So Majo, thank you very much. You've been the, how do I put it, the nucleus, diba, that have kept everything revolving around our work sa floor and ngayon virtual naman. So thank you very much to our Majority Leader, Martin Romualdez, and Chairman ng Defeat COVID-19. Thank you sa inyong tatlo. God bless.
And thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Minority Leader.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for inviting us. Please
Thank
call
you.
us at any time. Thank you.
Ay, Sexani is there pa pala. Sexani, thank you po very